Hello aspirants, we are going to look at current affairs for 12th December. But before that, I want to tell you about a new initiative which we have taken. This is online tests. So we are starting with free online daily tests. So these tests are uploaded here. Here's a student login which is provided. So anybody who wants to sign up for this needs to fill up these details here and sign up. You will get a reply via email confirming your email address too. Plus, you will be given an SMS with the details about your login ID and password. And after that, you can sign in into the student login. So this is the student login panel. In these exams in online test, we'll be uploading tests here. So these are current affairs based free 10 question MCQ tests on a daily basis, which we are planning to upload. So these will be uploaded the next day. Means for 12th December, we have uploaded today. So these tests are open. You can attempt the test. These are 10 questions, 10-minute test, and you can view your results and your ranking too. So this is the complete initiative. So you can access it, but it will take some time before it starts off, because once you get the email from our side, you will have to be enrolled into the course, this free course, and post that you will be able to see the details on your student panel. So now looking at the current affairs for 13th December. So the news items picked up from the Hindu are these 9. The first one, Cyclone Varda brings Chennai to a standstill. So we have already discussed Cyclone Varda. It had stranded tourists on Havelock Island, which is part of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. So that was the news when we discussed Cyclone Varda, and now it has made a landfall in Chennai. So this is here the route you can see from Andaman and Nicobar Islands here in Bay of Bengal. It has approached Chennai and will move further into the interior of India. But then it has changed from a very severe cyclonic storm. It has toned down and now it is being called, it's weakened. So it is a severe cyclonic storm now. So it is losing its strength gradually. So it moves inland, its strength is lost. So it has wreaked havoc in Chennai presently. So this is the news. Then the next news item is no restriction on foreign interns. So a new internship visa has been approved by the Union Cabinet. So this will help foreigners to gain professional experience from India. So they can come to India, and this internship visa will not be under restricted visa category. So this is also a positive development. So anybody from any country, youths can come in and gain professional experience. So that's what the government is saying, that our doors are open to all across the globe. So this restricted visa category is there in the visa policy of India, which means that applicants would be issued a visa only when the security agencies give a go ahead after the background checking. So this requirement is there, means you will be issued visas after background check. So this was there for even conference visa seekers from China. So this conference visa seekers from China have been removed now. Even Iran was under the restricted visa category. Even Iran has been removed. Presently, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Afghanistan, Yemen are countries under this list, amongst others. And also, Union Cabinet has presently given an approval that the visa policy of India, visa regime of India would be liberalized. Means all different categories of visas which have emerged, they would all be merged into one. So there are conference visas, tourist visas, business visas, medical visas. So all these visas would be merged into one. So this is also one provision which they will make. Plus another one is that electronic tourist visa, ETV, will be rechristened, renamed as electronic visa. So it is not just for the tourists. So that's how it will work. So it will be for tourists, businesses, as they are saying, it will merge into one. So tourist, business, conference, medical, whatever be the purpose, you can be given an electronic visa. So you can apply for it electronically and it is provided. The next news item is India-Indonesia resolved to fight terror. So this is Indonesian president who is on a visit to India presently. So Indonesia is the world's most populous nation. Also it is a strategically important location in Southeast Asia, and India-Indonesia relations need to be further strengthened. So there is a complete article in the perspective page in today's Hindu newspaper on which we will discuss a question too. So this about India-Indonesia relations. So presently whatever is in news is that they have signed agreements, and this is basically to boost trade and investment in the region. One agreement is on cooperation in youth affairs and sports, and another one is on standardization. So these are not important. MOUs signed, memorandum of agreements, but what is of more significance is resolved to boost trade and investment in the area. So Indonesia is known for its oil and gas reserves. To renewable energy is one area where investments can be made by India. To information technology, pharmaceutical. So these are sectors where investments can be made by India in Indonesia. So even Indonesia is having its dispute with China in the South China Sea. So this South China Sea dispute also has strategic significance because China is asserting itself in this region. So India's presence up here is also required. So that's why cooperation with China, Indonesia is important. So this, we are expanding our defense and maritime security ties along with resolving to fight terrorism together. So this is the news. The next news item is key takeaways from a fraught winter session. So the present winter session has been a complete dud. There has been nothing of significance done. The opposition was protesting on demonetization. They wanted a debate on demonetization in the Lok Sabha. The government is ready for a debate, but then they wanted voting. Post the debate, there should be a voting. So voting will see what is the strength of the government in the house. So that is an implied idea, that it gives you the idea what is the strength. So if the government fails to get majority votes in the Lok Sabha, means it does not have enough strength in the Lok Sabha. So in that case, the government may fall. So this is the point. So government was completely resisting, though it has majority. So if it issues the whip and every member has to vote for demonetization, then there would be no chance of it losing. But then government was not at all ready to budge, and it said there would be no voting in the Lok Sabha on this matter. So the complete session of present winter session got stalled. Plus in the Rajya Sabha, again Rajya Sabha voting has no significance. So even if there's a vote, and means it has no implication on the government in power. So government still stays even if it loses a vote in the Rajya Sabha. So there's no need for majority in Rajya Sabha. Majority is required in Lok Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, the demonetization issue again was the reason for stalling the sessions. And here the reason was that they wanted the Prime Minister Narendra Modi to come forward in Rajya Sabha and give an explanation when he had made allegations that people who are protesting, the politicians, the members of parliament who are protesting against demonetization are the ones who are corrupt. So they wanted an official apology from the Prime Minister in the Rajya Sabha. He should come and respond to them in the Rajya Sabha. So that also no budging on that matter too by the government, said no, this will not happen. So that resulted in the complete parliament sessions being stalled. So nothing of significance has taken place. Even GST, which was an important bill which had to be passed, even GST Council could not come to a consensus or any conclusion. Plus even the winter sessions, it was not possible that the bills could have been passed. So it has been stalled. So now GST would also go for implementation from September 2017. It cannot happen from next financial year. The article here basically talks of 4 to 5 significant aspects in this winter session, which just for our knowledge we can go through. It's not important from exam perspective. So one was Trinamool Congress, who was protesting vehemently against the government. Second one was Manmohan Singh's speech on demonetization in the Rajya Sabha, which went viral. Third was regarding the President of India, Pranab Mukherjee, he making a statement, for God's sake, do your job. So that was important. And plus even the BJP leader, senior leader, L.K. Advani, he made a statement that who is running the parliament. So government is supposed to control the houses as such. So the houses were in disarray and he blamed the government. So that was of significance. The next news item is on education. So we know that Hindu is running articles on education for a week. So now this is the third day. So on education, the first article is getting the elementary arithmetic wrong. So this is regarding elementary education and the way education is calculated. So we see numerical figures. Dropout rates, what are the dropout rates, what are the enrollment rates. So these are numerical figures. Quantity is seen, how many are in, how many are out. But what about quality, the quality of education? How do you judge that? So that is where the emphasis should be, to ensure that education is of some significance. So that is the title, getting the elementary arithmetic wrong. So what is important is elementary education should be strong. You must have read various news items and articles where you see that even higher class students in rural areas in government schools cannot read and write even the alphabets. be it English or any other language. So they can't even read and write alphabets and read as such. So these deficiencies which are seen means elementary education is not up to the mark. So if they have elementary education provided sufficiently and then they come to higher classes, then they can actually gain from it education. So this is highlighted that preschool education is important. This was also highlighted by earlier committees which had been set up even as early as in 1966. Kothari Education Committee had also emphasized on pre-primary education, that should be emphasized on, and in 20 years each district should have a pre-primary education development center ready. So nothing has happened as such on this. Tamil Nadu has brought in some initiative, and this initiative is activity based learning. So in this activity based learning, the learning takes place not through books but through activities, and here all age groups are together, they can learn. So whatever is being taught, everybody can learn and gain knowledge. So this has been appreciated and also replicated in other states, regions also. So this was first introduced in Tamil Nadu in the middle school, primary and middle school in 2009. So this is important, that this helps you in understanding that learning outcomes which need to be attained have not been. So these are the corrective measures brought in. So the government has also, central government has also brought in initiatives. This is Padhe Bharat, Badhe Bharat. So this is Learn India, Develop India. So this is also targeting early reading and writing. So comprehension skills, understanding mathematics, all this is important at the initial stage. So this is a twin track approach. Both language and arithmetic, reading, writing and arithmetic are important and being emphasized in the initial stages. So this is there. Also, you cannot use one size fit all approach. Means everybody, every student is unique, every region is unique, their deficiencies are unique. So it has to, the education system has to cater to those needs. It cannot be a standard format for all. Then the next article is about activity based learning. So here, since it is a multi-activity room and multi-age group category, so there are groups then further made and cards given and activity undertaken. So without reading and writing, through understanding these activities, participating in them, children learn. So here some are criticizing it too, because then they are not having the habit of reading as such. So traditional schooling is also important apart from these activities. So both have to be balanced. That is one aspect. Plus another aspect highlighted is under right to education, teachers have to undertake continuous comprehensive evaluation under the right to education. So this eats up on their significant time. They are doing this documentation rather than actual teaching. But then this may not be so bad too. If they are doing continuous evaluation, that means they are paying attention to the students, what is being taught. So if both are balanced, there's nothing like it. So it's not that something is good or something is bad, but the balance is required in all methodologies. Also another thing which we have already discussed yesterday too, that teachers are overburdened with non-academic staff work like clerical work too, taking Aadhaar registrations, distribution with respect to various schemes amongst the children, all these provisions being put in under them, that affects their teaching. So this non-teaching work should be taken away from there, is one point we already know. The next news item is Venezuela demonetizes 100 Bolivar banknotes. So after India has undertaken demonetization, there is another country which is following a path. This is Venezuela, a South American country. So in Venezuela, there is a deep economic crisis presently. Inflation levels are quite high. There is no official data on inflation, but economists claim that inflation is as high as 500%. So you can imagine the value of the currency. The currency has completely lost its value. Even to buy essential commodities, you have to take bundles of currency. So that is the status in Venezuela now. All this has come to this point because Venezuela was majorly dependent on oil exports. So it's an oil producing country. It's a member of OPEC as well, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries. So it was oil dependent economy, and when the oil prices fell, the complete economy came under a crisis, because through this oil money the government was funding welfare schemes. So before Maduro government in Venezuela, the Hugo Chavez was in power, and he had initiated various welfare measures. He had brought down prices too, and the economy was functioning very well. Social indicators were quite good. But then once the oil based economy, that base foundation fell, the government was not able to sustain these social welfare measures, which are still continued because they are populist measures, cannot be withdrawn. So it has come to this state presently. The government, present Maduro government, is also claiming that there is no illegal sale of goods from Venezuela to Colombia, the neighboring country. So this is resulting in vast profits there because Venezuelan goods are subsidized. So he is making some such allegations too, and he is saying that the currency would be completely withdrawn. This is the 100 Bolivar currency which will be completely withdrawn, and this will come into effect from 14th December, that is tomorrow, and it will last for 10 days when the Venezuelans can change their $100 bills, 100 Bolivar bills in the central bank. So of course opposition is raising its voice that this much time frame is not sufficient for exchange, plus the central bank will not be having the capacity to exchange all the currencies as well. So we'll have to see what goes ahead now in Venezuela too. So this 100 Bolivar bill currency note, which has been demonetized, is the largest currency note in Venezuela, and in today's date it is worth 2 US cents. So that is its value. So it has completely lost its value, that is for sure. So even in 2003, the country had brought in measures, control measures, which had made Bolivar fixed. It was a fixed currency exchange rate, so fixed to dollar. So this, of course, in the international market, it will have its ramifications, and Bolivar's value completely fell down. So this is there. It shows you the inflations too, inflation levels, and during the various presidents' terms. So you can see this former was Hugo Chavez government since 2000 as such till 2014. Then in 2015 elections, it is Nicolas Maduro who has become the head of Venezuela. So inflation levels are going sky high. This is Venezuelan Bolivar per US dollar. So with for $1 US, how many Venezuelan bolivars you will have to pay. So presently it is, you can see this is also an old data. So you can see even at that time it was 2016, May 2016, it was around 1200. So this is 1200 Venezuelan bolivars for $1 US. So this is how it has fell over the years. This is 2012 data. Then this is the position of Venezuela in South America. The next news item is EU-Cuba sign political accord. So Cuba has been in news recently. Fidel Castro, who was the head of Cuba for decades, had died. His brother had of course succeeded him. Raul Castro is the leader in Cuba presently, but then Fidel Castro died, and now EU and Cuba have signed a political accord. So EU was one last bastion with which Cuba was the only country with which EU was not having any transactions. So now this stalemate has been ended, and the government, majorly EU countries, want that there should be no human rights violations. So these rights issues are always raised when trade related issues are concerned. So even with India, labor rights, labor laws, if child labor is involved, then trade will be affected. So EU countries are very keen on these aspects. So always human rights issues are raised. So now the government has come up with a political deal. So they say that European diplomats and officials will get a right to raise human rights issues directly with Cuba, and they'll be gently pressed for reform so that even the two countries can come closer, work together. So this is the thaw in the relation between EU and Cuba now. So this is there. Fidel Castro was known to have violated human rights of many dissidents who opposed him, who refused to go along with his line of thought. So this is the US President Barack Obama visited Cuba after 88 years. So this was one more initiative from US. Otherwise, US has imposed strong restrictions on Cuba. Trade restrictions, a complete economic embargo, which has now been lifted also gradually. So this is also a development. With Donald Trump coming to power again, how Cuba would be treated is another matter, because he has threatened that he would reverse Obama's easing of travel and other restrictions on Cuba. So we'll wait and watch what Donald Trump comes ahead with too. The last news item is AIBEA flags higher cash allocation to private banks. So this is All India Bank Employees Association, who has given an example of Tamil Nadu and says that few private sector banks have got disproportionately higher shares of new bank currency notes. So these new notes, the 500 and 2000 rupee currency notes have been given disproportionately to them. So how has this taken place? There needs to be an inquiry on this. There have been many people arrested with huge bags full of these new currency notes. So where did they get this currency from? So there is need for thorough investigation in this matter. Even RBI has issued a directive. It says that all these banks which have been given the chests, currency chests, how are they allocating this money to various branches in the region has to be undertaken. A review has to be undertaken, because it seems that they are favoring their own bank branches rather than providing it to all other branches as well of other banks. So this is one point which is highlighted. So these three private sector banks, ICICI, Axis Bank and HDFC Bank, that have been, there has been seen that they are having close to 44% of the entire currency which has been distributed by them. So this is one example highlighted as well. So let's see what will happen further on this matter. On a reread, I realized that RBI has issued an advisory to banks in charge of currency chests to dispel the perception that they were according priority to their own bank branches. So it's not asking for an investigation in the matter, an allegation being made, but it is assuming that nothing's wrong, and they want the banks to bring justification, to bring in clear this perception which is there. Whether it is right or wrong is irrelevant. So this is the stance taken, which is really shocking. But anyway, we discussed about Prevention of Corruption Act 2, that how government acts on these matters, what are the assumptions taken and how it takes things forward. So anyway, so these are the news items for today. Thank you.